says the dragon in Revelation doesn't just war against the woman, it says he wars against the rest of her children. Who are they? They're us. They're everyone who follows Messiah. If you're a believer, you are a spiritual child of Israel. No matter where you come, you are. The enemy attacks Israel physically. He attacks the people of God spiritually. Persecution. In the last days, he's going to rage against both of them. And so Israel and the church are going to get more and more, come together even by that.
But before we get into our conversation, my name is Eric Metaxas, and this channel exists to bring you a biblical perspective on today's news, culture, and hot button issues. If you're new here or not, welcome, and be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you are notified when new videos get posted. Folks, I could hardly be more excited than I am right now to have in the studio my friend Jonathan Cahn with a new book called Dragon's Prophecy. Jonathan, welcome back.
Thank you. Always great to be here.
Nobody writes more books than I do, except you. But I think that's because my books, I can't write them quite as quickly because they're just loaded with information, whereas your stuff, it's pretty fluffy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
There's really nothing in it. Folks, if you've read these books, it's just, it's just opinions, except I'm kidding.
Feel good.
Here's the problem. Your books are so full of information that I don't even know where to start. This book talks about unseen forces determining the events of our times, and you uncover mysteries like the return of the sea peoples, the dark resurrection, the Black Sabbath, the Prince of Persia. It's tantalizing stuff. Where do we start? Why do you think, where did you get the idea? This is my first question. Where did you get the idea to write this book? What was the initial thing that said, I'm onto something again?
Yeah, well, this was different because I was actually planning to write another book, which was the sequel to The Return of the Gods. And I know I'm going to write that, but I was interrupted. And one thing I was interrupted by is what happened in Israel. And then the Lord really interrupted. I'm praying, Lord, do you want me to write a different book? And I'm actually in my car driving my kids to school, and I see in my mind's eye, I see the image of a red dragon. And I said, okay, this is it from Revelation. And that's what held it together. One of the things that happened was one of the mysteries here is that I was actually sharing at the congregation I lead in Beth Israel, which is here across the river in New Jersey. It was a Friday night, and I'm led to share about a mystery, this mystery from the Bible, and ordained, not that I knew it, ordained that there would be an attack on Israel. It would happen in the year 2023, and I'll share why. It will happen in October, would happen on a Sabbath day, a Saturday, would happen on a Hebrew holy day, would happen on the first Saturday of October, 2023, would lead to war, take Israel by surprise, and the next morning it happened after I shared this mystery. This is one of the mysteries of the book. There are many, but that God is in charge, and it may even enable us to know a number of events to come and when. After I finished the manuscript, other events started happening according to it. So this is kind of what, I didn't plan on this book. I was kind of shaken to do this, and then the Lord just took it.
This is heavy stuff, and I think we have to be clear to frame things for people. Yeah. God speaks prophetically through people. He does this for us, to bless us, to help us to see what is happening. And he seems to have chosen you for that because he continually gives you the ability to see stuff that others haven't seen. And then you see it, you write about it so we can all see it. So in this case, when you say that you spoke about what happened right before Hamászt attacked October 7, 2023. What was it that you saw in the scripture that you see this looks like a pattern? Yeah,
this is one of the things, and we may have spoken about it before. This is something I've written about I call it the Jubilean mysteries, and that is starting with the Jubilee. Jubilee every 50th year. And the 50th year, whatever you lost, you get back. And so the first thing about this mystery is that when God restored Israel, it happened according to the pattern of the Jubilee. I'll just give a quick nutshell of that. The first thing was 1867, the land is actually released by the Sultan that the Jewish people can actually start redeeming the land. There's much more happened. But if you count 50 years, it takes you to 1917. Next Jubilee. 1917, the British come in, the Turks leave. Balfour Declaration gives the land to Israel. Everyone shall return to their land, but they didn't have Jerusalem. Count 50 years, it takes you to 1967, the Six-Day War. And in the Six-Day War, after 2,000 years, the Israeli soldiers enter the gates of Jerusalem. This is key for Messiah, Jesus, coming back. So that's the next one. But They never had the recognition. In the Jubilee, you get the legal right and the recognition. The world refused that for years. So, but if you count 50 years, the next Jubilee, it takes you to 2017. Did anything happen? 2017 is the year that America, under Donald Trump, issued the Jerusalem Declaration. First time since ancient times recognizing legally Jerusalem. So all these things happen. But one of the things that why I'm going to get to like October 7th, and you see, it's called the Dragon's Prophecy. This is a dragon cover. I haven't done something with this kind of cover. The dragon is the enemy, and that is spoken of in Revelation. The enemy takes the things of God and twists them. So inverts them. And so if you look, there was actually a calamity that happened to Israel in modern times, and it was called the Yom Kippur War. And that calamity because it almost destroyed Israel. In the natural, they thought it was the end. Golda Meir almost committed suicide. They thought they were finished. They were caught by surprise, ground invasion, turned it around, but it shook Israel to this day.
And this was 73.
This is 73.
So Nixon was president.
That's
and
right.
He was very helpful to Israel.
He was.
Dramatically so.
He was. Yeah, this is the time of Nixon, Kissinger, and that whole thing. So if the enemy's playing on what God does, but reversing it takes a calamity, go to the 50th year. It takes you to 2023. The Yom Kippur War happened in October. So this is going to happen in October. The Yom Kippur War happened on a Saturday. Happens on a Saturday, Sabbath. Yom Kippur War happened on a holy day from Leviticus. So did this one on October 7th. And the Yom Kippur War took place on the first Saturday of October of 73. Points to the first Saturday of October 2023 is October 7th. It happens exactly.
When did you make this connection? You said you spoke about it before it happened.
I spoke about on that Friday night before I was led, and again, I'm not saying I know these things, Eric, but God leads.
You spoke on October 6th, 2023.
On the night of October 6th, which was the 50th, which is the Western anniversary of the attack on Yom Kippur War.
Right.
And I spoke about the 50-year mystery of God and how all these things correspond, 50 years and 50 years and this whole thing, which is in many ways, even links to COVID, but won't get into that. But the thing is that, and then the next morning it happened. Everybody said, you just spoke about it. And that's where I said, okay, Lord, are you wanting me to go further with this? And that's began the dragon's prophecy.
We believe in Jesus and we believe in the New Testament, and it talks about Satan. What is the Jewish understanding of the devil? Because they don't have it's not as clear as it is in the New Testament.
Yeah, well, everything is clear. It kind of comes to its full clarity in the New Testament, but which is in the Old Testament. And so Satan is in the Old Testament. The word Satan is Hebrew. I mean, Satan, the opponent. And that translates to Greek, becomes diabolos. We get the word devil. So this is the opposer. You find him in Job. You find him in Zechariah. He accuses Israel. Deals with David at one point. So you have this actually continuing. The enemy is, it is understood the way it's understood in the New Testament, except that this is an angelic being that was inverted against God, opposes all the purposes of God. And the thing is that, so Eric, let's say we were from another planet and we just came on, we didn't know anything but that. And we knew that God also brought a people, Israel, to accomplish his purposes on earth, the Bible, Messiah, the kingdom. What would happen? There would be a war between this entity and the Jewish people. And we would expect, if we knew nothing else, the Jewish people would become the most hated people, accused people, persecuted people, ravaged people. And we'd see this war through, and this war would never end because the enemy doesn't die. The first anti-Semite is an angel. And when you look in Revelation 12, that shows you have the dragon set with the enemy attacking this woman with 12 stars and who gives birth to Messiah. That's Israel. And so this is exactly what just happened on October 7th. People were shocked. This is part of an ancient war that was long before we were born, and it's going to continue up to Messiah. But this is really, see, one of the things is that I think you probably heard the story. I don't know if it's been verified, but that a king asked his minister, give me one proof of God. And the guy says, the Jew.
Yeah. Well,
but the Jewish existence proves God, but it also proves the enemy, because no people, why is it the most evil people in the world, Hitler, most of you are obsessed with the Jewish people. Because the enemy is, and it never makes sense. The communists accuse the Jews of being capitalists, the capitalists of communists. It doesn't matter. It just resurrects because this is a real spiritual warfare.
You say something in the book about the Sea Peoples.
Yes.
Now, I'm familiar with the Mycenaean era.
Yes.
I'm writing a book on Homer and the Mycenaean people. So we're talking, 1600 BC to about 1100 BC. And a lot of people have speculated that the Mycenaean era was really wiped out by the sea people. It's always very confusing. So what do you mean when you talk about the secret of the so-called sea people? Who are the sea people?
Yeah, and by the way, Eric, you're the only interviewer who knows what you just said, to say that I've known. That's brought that up. One of the things I want to do in the book, it's kind of removing the veil to see when you remove the veil to the spiritual realm, you see actually what's happening in the physical realm right now. And so just a note of the enemy. The enemy is also a mimic. He's an imitator. He imitates God, the works of God, the Antichrist. Everything is an imitation. Well, what did God do? God, in the 20th century, God resurrected an ancient people, Israel, back into the world. What's the enemy going to do? He's going to resurrect an ancient people.
Okay, going to a break. That's called a cliffhanger in show business. We'll be right back. Did you know that every solar panel needs silver paste to work its magic? And the demand for solar power is doubling every 3 years, so silver is set to take off. A silver IRA with Noble Gold makes perfect sense. No matter who wins the election or what the economy does, silver's future looks dazzling. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com now to claim up to 10 1-ounce silver Trump coins or a 10-ounce silver American flag bar. Let's catch this silver tsunami together. So you were talking about the sea peoples. It's unclear who the sea peoples were. So keep talking about this.
So the thing is that what if the enemy is going to imitate God and God resurrected an ancient people, could the enemy also resurrect an ancient people? And it's not about the people. They don't know what they're doing. We love all people, but they can be used. And the thing is that who are the ancient enemies of Israel, the arch enemies? The Philistines or the Pilashtim. They are known as one of these people who swept across the Mediterranean, across Egypt, settled in Israel on that coast. And so what if the enemy would do that or take a people and conform that into that image? Well, the amazing thing is, by the way, when the Jewish people, the first instance of Israel recorded outside the Bible is by the pharaohs in the inscriptions where it says, I vanquished Israel. But
the Merneptah stele, I think
yes.
it was the Merneptah stele. I wrote about that in my book, Is Atheism Dead? I was so fascinated by this. I mean, it's amazing.
And right after that comes the first recorded instance of the Philistine. So it's like Israel comes in the world, the Philistine is there. Now, the thing is, what if the enemy resurrected it? Well, there's a people called the Palestinians. The word Palestinian literally means, people don't know this, means the Philistines. And in fact, the way you pronounce it in Arabic, they don't call themselves Palestinians. They call them, it's pronounced Philistine or Philistini. Literally, it's the word Philistine. So you have Israel, and as Israel was resurrected, this other resurrection starts paralleling it. And in fact, the word Philistine comes into the Arabic word just right starts spreading through the Arab world as Israel's coming back. And at every point, it happens. Where did the Philistines live? They were in the place called Pilashet in Hebrew. We call, in the Bible, say Philistia. It's a little region of land. Where is it? Today, it exists, but it is called the Gaza Strip. And the Gaza Strip did not exist. Gaza did. Gaza Strip did not exist. It came back. It came into the world when? In 1948, when Israel came into the world. And so the Jewish people, the Israelites, went to the land of Israel, and the people called Philistine go to the land of the Philistines. And so you have a setup. You have this whole thing. And in ancient times, the Gaza Strip or Philistia was the place where a lot of evil came out of that and into Israel. In fact, the Philistines used to launch raids and attack from the Gaza Strip, basically, and they would go into Israeli villages, they would brutalize them, and they would take hostages back to Gaza. So what we just witnessed is a replaying of a mystery that's totally in the Bible and that the enemy is using.
Okay, now you say also that Hamas appears in the Bible. How so?
Hamas is an Arabic word, and it's an acronym, and it means the Islamic resistance movement, and it means in Arabic zeal and fervor. But it's one of the strange words that's also Hebrew. And so in Hebrew, it means evil, violence, death, and destruction. And the thing is, that word Hamas actually appears in the Bible, and I'll give you some examples. I put it in the book, but just some examples. If you go to the Hebrew, it says, for instance, Lord, save me from the man of Hamas. It says, Hamas has risen up in the land as a rod of evil. It says Hamas is in the city and the land is filled with bloodshed. Hamas, you know how they would dwell? They dwell in the tunnels, they hide. It says Hamas dwells in the dark places of the earth. And then it says, actually, there's a word given in the prophets to Israel. It says, rid Hamas from the land. Then in the kingdom of Messiah, there's a promise given to Israel in Isaiah. It says, and then Hamas shall no longer be heard in your land. So yes, it is in the Bible.
I got to ask you, because this stuff is so extraordinary. You talk about Hamas's invasion of Israel being connected somehow to the book of Revelation. What do you mean by that?
Yes, and I'm not saying Revelation is predicting this book, but here's the thing. In Revelation, it says the dragon warred against the woman. Actually, the Greek word is persecuted. This is against Israel. And it says, and we all remember, he spewed a flood out of his mouth to wipe the woman away, which he's actually used against Israel in different ways. But the actual invasion of Israel, Hamas gave it a code word. They have a name. They don't call it the October 7th invasion. They call it Operation Tufan. Tufan is the Arabic word, which means the flood, as in the flood of a dragon. They don't know this, but that's exactly what it was.
It's unbelievable. What do you mean by the term the colors of the apocalypse?
Yeah, in the book of Revelation, and by the way, this is also, Eric, this is the only book, I didn't plan it this way, it's the only book I've written which totally goes into the realm of end time prophecy. What's happening now, but it totally relates. We've crossed a number of thresholds, prophetic thresholds. But this one is in Revelation, of course, there are the colors of death, of famine, of war, which is the four horsemen, the four horses. You have the white horse, you have the red horse, you have the black horse, and you have the pale green horse. But the amazing thing is after October 7th, it wasn't just October 7th. All over the world, you have this wave, this hatred, this rage against Israel. In Harvard, in America, as well, the whole world. And the thing is that where there was this rage against Israel, the colors of the apocalypse start appearing. And how so? They all gathered around a banner. The banner is the flag of Palestine or the Philistines, which is white as in the white horse, red as in the red horse, black as in the black horse, green as in the green horse. And the thing is, every nation that has these colors, it marks them as an enemy of Israel.
Wow. Okay. You say that the prophet Ezekiel foretells a coming invasion of Israel that may be another big event. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, Ezekiel 38 is very specific, and he speaks about an alliance of nations, an invasion of Israel, and he names the names. Now we can identify a number of them with at least the areas there, and there's question over. But the thing is that we can't identify them. Interesting thing is the ones we can identify today or in this modern age, have all become enemies of Israel. Interesting. They're also working more and more together. But the thing that I saw is that it says that they'll all partake in an invasion of Israel. What I saw is that each one of them, of these ones that I identify in the book, each one of them had a part in the invasion of Israel of October 7th. Each one was a backer of Hamas. Each one smuggled in arms.
We know Iran. Who else?
Definitely Iran. Sudan, which is Kush, also did. Put, which is Libya, and Togarma, Turkey, every one of them are marked as they did that. And this had never happened before. I mean, and this is not, the fulfillment is yet to come, but they've never crossed this line. They were all involved in invasion of Israel. And Iran, absolutely. Iran, Ezekiel says Iran is going to attack Israel along with the rest, but Iran never attacked Israel directly. But Iran, for the first time, did. It was just in the last few months. We crossed another prophetic line.
Yeah. You say that behind 9/11 was the Temple Mount. You say this in the book, and I have to ask you about the so-called King Solomon's secret. I mean, this is tantalizing stuff. We don't have enough time. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, people don't realize this, and CNN will never tell you this, and that is that behind October 7th was the Temple Mount. The Temple Mount is really the ground zero of end-time prophecy. That's where it all has to come together. That's where the temple's going to be. That's where the Antichrist is going to be. That's where the kingdom's going to be. So you're going to have warfare over that. You're going to have the dragon or the enemy is going to seek to dominate, and he has dominated that. In fact, to not allow any Jewish person to go up there and pray, because this is linked to the temple. And so anything that would shake that all hell's going to break loose. Well, people don't know, at the beginning of that year, before October 7th, something happened. It happened on a Hebrew holiday. It was Passover. There was a rumor that Jewish people were going to go up on the mount, celebrate Passover on the mount with a lamb. Well, all hell broke loose on the Temple Mount. And it was then that Hamas issued a threat to Israel and said, because you did that, because of that, you're going to pay the price. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. October 7th was the enemy's his counterattack for what just happened. All hell broke loose on that. And the thing is that as it happened on a Hebrew holy day, so October 7th, the attack happened on a Hebrew holy day. And the thing is that as far as King Solomon, there's one day of the Hebrew year where the Jewish people open the scrolls and they read of King Solomon dedicating the temple on the Temple Mount. Now, to the enemy, that would be a threat. And they're reading it all over Israel. What day was that appointed? It's a Hebrew holiday. The day fell on October 7th. So they're opening the scrolls. They're reading about the temple on the Temple Mount. Hamásth is planning the Operation Tufan, which they also called Operation Al-Aqsa Mosque. They named the attack also after the Temple Mount. And by the way, I'm going to throw this in, Eric. Behind 9/11 was also the Temple Mount, because after October 7th, Hamas issued a statement. They said it was because of the Temple Mount. You threatened the Temple Mount. This is the devil. This is the enemy speaking. After 9/11, bin Laden issues a statement and he says it happened because, almost uses the exact same words, because of how you threatened the Temple Mount, talking about Israel and thus America. And so it's all behind it. It's all, when you pull away the veil, it's all there.
I think the obvious question that a lot of people have to some extent is, what's the point? In other words, you hear all this stuff. What is God trying to do by giving us the information that he's given you, that you put in this book? What is the larger point?
Yeah, one is that God is in control. God is real. The God of the Bible is still real. The God of Israel is real. And what the Bible said is actually coming forward. We are actually moving forward on these things in every direction. The other thing is, what do we do? The last part of the book of the dragon's prophecy is, what do we do? Because, you see, it says the dragon in Revelation doesn't just war against the woman. It says he wars against the rest of her children. Who are they? They're us. They're everyone who follows Messiah. If you're a believer, you are a spiritual child of Israel. No matter where you come, you are. The enemy attacks Israel physically. He attacks the people of God spiritually. Persecution. In the last days, he's going to rage against both of them. And so Israel and the church are going to get more and more, come together even by that. But one of the things is that we have to fight. One of the things about the Israel in the natural, Jews weren't known as fighters for a long time. They weren't allowed to be. When they came back to Israel and said, if we don't fight, we're dead. That's the correspondence. We are spiritual Israelis. We have to learn how to spiritually fight. We cannot just take what's happening in the culture, what the enemy's doing, or in our lives. We have to say, no, we will fight this. We have to be strong like the first believers were, and to touch the world. So that the last part is about that, because the dragon wars against every human being, not just the Jews, not just the church, but everyone in the image of God. He's been warring against each one of us since we were conceived. And we have to fight the fight. And some things of encouragement is, when you look in Revelation, you see a dragon, but you also see a lamb. And now most people would place their bets on a dragon if they're fighting, but the lamb wins. The lamb is Messiah. And the thing is, evil always comes like a dragon, overwhelming, fierce, intimidating. Good comes like a lamb. It's an underdog. Doesn't look like it's an underdog. I mean, you speak about, look at the Christians in Nazi Germany. Look at the Christians in Rome, and on and on. Well, it may not look like it, but good does win. The dragon is reptilian. That's cold-blooded. They don't last. The evil doesn't last. It can't. But good goes forever. We will win, if we persevere. I'm not talking about every battle.
But it's interesting when you talk about fighting, because I really do think that there are many Christians who have been persuaded of a lie, that they're not to fight. That is not biblical. Final thoughts. We've got 40 seconds.
Yeah, encouragement here, and that is that when you look at this, a real thing. Here you have Israel that the enemy's been trying to destroy for 4,000 years. The pharaohs, Assyria, Babylon, Rome, Hitler, the terrorists. But you know what? Babylon is gone. Rome is gone. The pharaohs are gone. They're all gone, but the nation of Israel still lives. It should be in museums here in New York, but they're alive because the God of Israel's alive and the Messiah of Israel's alive. And if you're following him, you will win in the end, but you got to fight. One of the things I say, you can't win if you don't fight. And so the last part is that we must fight the dragon.